Hello and welcome to Midwest Writers Room. Our mission is to encourage, educate, and celebrate writers of the Midwest. I'm Luella Schmidt.
And I'm Ken Humphrey. Today's chapter break episode features Angie Bier and her latest publication, Voices, which was released in June of 2025.
Angie is a former pediatrician, a mother, and a Wisconsinite from birth. Her interests run the gamut from genealogy to the obsessive collecting of perennials, from Pilates to creative napping. We're going to have to ask her about that. Voices is her second book. The first was a work of nonfiction genealogical mystery titled The Accidental Archivist. She is a member of All Writers Workplace and Workshop and a member of the Door County Published Authors Collective. She lives between Franklin and Gills Rock, Wisconsin, with her husband, two daughters, and two dogs.
Just like you, Luella, I kind of snagged on the creative napping thing as something we got to inquire about as well. But before we do that, let's take a look at the synopsis of Voices. When Elena moves to small town Belvedere her junior year, she worries about fitting her high achieving self into a new small town school. When she starts hearing voices, the challenges wildly multiply. Told from points of view of Elena, her mother, and a new frenemy named Kat, Voices explores relationships between women and the stories we tell ourselves, with a dash of magical realism thrown in.
Ooh, we're very happy to welcome you, Angie, to Midwest Writers Room. How you doing today?
Oh, great. Thanks for having me, Luella. Thanks for having me, Ken. I'm happy to be here with you today.
Yeah, we're excited to chat about this. So, as noted, before we even talk about you or the book, what the heck is creative napping?
That's just something I put down. So, in my family, the ability to fall asleep at a moment's notice is both something inherited and it's something we take pride in. And so, a good nap is something never to be wasted. And if you were to ask me, which I worry that you might, what my top 10 naps of all time have been, I could tell you. The appreciation of a good nap in a warm patch of sunlight is not something to be taken lightly. I love a good nap.
So, here's a discussion we have in our family quite often. How long
Hmm.
should a nap be? How long truly is a nap? So, my disclaimer is I will nap, but I get about 15 minutes and I'm good. That's all I need. But my son, like 2 hours is a nap for them. So, what's your classification there, Angie?
I'm guessing your son is a teenager because the ability of teenagers and the need of teenagers to nap for epic lengths of time is a fact. For me, if I have to actually engage with the rest of the day, I'd say around 20 minutes. And to go back to my science nerd brain, there is data to support that is sort of right before your brain will slip into a deep REM cycle, but just enough to wake you up and refresh you. So I love a good 20-minute power nap. Now, if it's a Sunday afternoon and there's nothing expected of me, I will lock in for as long as my body wants to go and join those teenagers on that 2 hour epic nap ride.
Well, since you have pediatrician in your background, that sounds very official to me. And I am going to go to my children with a victory comment that 15 to 20 minutes is correct for a nap, right? They
Take
don't
the
listen to this
W, as
show.
they say. Take the win on that one. Yep.
Yep. All right. So let's talk a little bit about voices. Kind of take us back. How did the story come about? What was the origin of it? When did you lock in to the fact that this is actually a story?
This story actually I started writing probably about 6 or 7 years ago, and it is actually the first long work in my writing journey. When I left medicine about 10 years ago, it was with a lot of self-exploration that I was able to make that switch. And as part of my journey, I did a lot of writing, essays, observations. I had a little blog, and Voices is actually my first attempt at writing something of a longer length. And I was really taken with the idea of female inheritance. And this, again, you're going to think I'm just only a science nerd, but the idea of what if there was a trait that was passed along between women in families, from mothers to daughters? And what if there was someone who managed to inherit it from her dad instead? And so, therefore, she wasn't brought into the fold by her mother to know about this special ability, this special talent from a young age, and it just sort of crept up on her. So that's where the idea of Voices came from. The main character, Elena, starts to experience the benefits of her ability, her talent, as I call it in the book, talent with a capital T. But her mom hasn't warned her about it. So it takes her by surprise and it causes all sorts of havoc in her life. And then again, to go back to the science aspect of it, I was really obsessed with the idea of what's known as mitochondrial Eve. So got to bear with me here, guys. in your cells, you inherit most of your DNA through DNA that hangs out in the nucleus of your cell. And that's where you get a little bit from your mom and a little bit from your dad. And that's what we all think about how we're sort of a mishmash between our two parents. But there's also this little island of DNA that hangs out outside the nucleus in the mitochondria, which, if you remember from high school biology, is the powerhouse of the cell. And that little bit of DNA comes almost 100% of the time from your mom. And so if you were to go back and think about it and do the math, we all could trace through the generations the origin of our mitochondrial DNA back to one common female ancestor way back in the dark ages. And she's colloquially known as mitochondrial Eve. So that's kind of where I geeked out on the idea of female inheritance. So there you go. That's something you can read about later. You can Google mitochondrial Eve and it'll kind of blow your mind.
So, Luella, I know this for a fact. We have never heard the word mitochondrial Eve uttered on this show, even mitochondria. I don't think we've ever delved into that even on this show.
I kind of want to stop everything and go do some research quick and then come back. I'm so into this right now. So let's talk a little bit about the book. So this is young adult, right? And it's got some magical realism. I was curious about, I don't know, I'm curious I guess tell me a little bit about Elena and her magical realism. Tell me about the character.
Sure. So Elena, the main character, is a very high-strung, high-achieving, very controlled type of an individual. She is very much taken with the idea that she is the master of her own fate. And so her family moves to this new small town where opportunities are much more limited than where she came from. And she is bound and determined to find her place and make her path as the academic all-star, high-achieving, precocious kid in her new small town. And she's doing pretty well. She finds her people, she finds some friends, she finds a frenemy who doesn't like her. Their vibes are just off. And then in the middle of all this, she starts to be experiencing overwhelming amounts of input, for lack of a better word, awareness of people's feelings around her, and in some cases, actually being able to hear voices. She's struggling with the fact that she is aware that she has an aunt who actually committed suicide due to mental illness. So when she starts to experience these voices, she obviously becomes very concerned that she could be following her aunt down the same path. So that's the initial conflict in the book, is Elena losing control of a life that she took great pride in being in absolute control of, which for those of us who have been teenagers, whether or not we have a special talent or start to hear voices, is a very familiar feeling.
Certainly, feeling like there's definitely something wrong with me.
Yes.
Very teenage angst. So tell us a little bit about your path to publication.
So this book I worked on with the assistance of my writing coach at All Writers Workplace and Workshop. Went through about 4 different drafts, took it down from initially 185,000 words to a more palatable length of 130,000 words. I'm a very chatty person. Ken's going to have to do a lot of editing of this podcast. Sorry, Ken. And I submitted it to a number of small independent publishers and eventually was made an offer from Black Rose Writing. So this book was published in June of this past year, 2025, by Black Rose Writing. It's been a great experience.
That's great. I love it. And I like the fact that you have both a nonfiction in your first go around and now you're kind of trying, fiction. And you mentioned that in the beginning you were kind of doing a blog. And I don't know, I find it sort of interesting that your book is called Voices and it looks like you're also experimenting with a lot of voices.
I certainly didn't make these decisions to be marketable, right? I haven't chosen a lane and stayed in it, but that's okay. In fact, the first book I published interrupted this book. I was working on it, and the story of the first book, which was a woman who contacted me due to one of my hobbies you mentioned at the top of the podcast, genealogy. She was looking for her birth parents, and she stumbled across my information online and was hoping I might be able to figure out who gave birth to her in 1950. And we actually were able to solve the mystery, starting from a point of only knowing that we were related somehow through 23andMe, and that her father was a priest. There were 7 priests in my family tree it could have been. So that book was the story of how we solved the mystery. And it's a book that simply had to be written. So I had to pay attention to it and then come back to Voices after it was published. And that one was published through another small independent publisher called Moonshine Cove Publishing.
Nice. We are very big fans of the small independent publishers on the show, aren't we, Ken?
Absolutely.
So, I
One,
mean,
yes,
having this,
sorry.
genealogy kind of fun interrupt this book, that's a pretty notable moment or that happened along your path to trying to get Voices out. Did you have any other notable struggles or high points that were sort of when you think back on putting this book together?
I think the most notable struggle is just finding time, which I'm sure has come up before in your podcast. I know it has, and um, my kids now are both sophomores, one in college and one in high school, and it's just hard to find the time. I did step away from medicine and I wasn't working while I was doing most of the work on Voices, so that was certainly a luxury to me. Now I've gone back to work. I now am the executive director of a small independent theater company. And boy, it really cramps my writing style.
Doggone responsibilities.
I should mention it while I'm on the podcast. Forte Theater Company. We bring professional theater and theater education to Milwaukee's southern suburbs. There you go.
Yeah, nice. I love it. Thank you. All right. Well, so we're ready for the chapter break portion of our
Sure.
chapter break episode. Tell us a little bit about where in your book you're starting from to orient us and take it away when you're ready.
Absolutely. So I mentioned to you the character of Elena, and there are 2 other points of view that happen in this book. One is her mother, who doesn't come into this particular chapter, but one is the frenemy Cat. Cat is someone with whom she starts to experience odd exchanges of information. And in fact, before the scene we're at, the girls are both with their friend groups out shopping for dresses for the winter formal. And Kat and Elena have an experience in the dressing room where they're actually able to hear each other's thoughts. And it's very unnerving and very upsetting. But Elena tries to put it out of her mind and go to the snowball dance, the winter formal, with her first boyfriend and have a good time. So this takes place in the middle of the snowball dance. The snowball was complete with balloons and streamers incongruously taped over the day-to-day reality of the cafeteria, and a DJ swirling lights and playing popular music. Most kids danced in the middle of the gym floor. Some stood outside the foul line and watched or checked their phones. The beautiful people, including Kat in her amazing dress, hung around the edges and disappeared frequently through the door to the cafeteria loading docks, most likely drinking whatever cheap beer one of their older brothers scored for them. For the first time in 2 weeks, Elena didn't particularly care what Kat was doing. The music pulsed, her friends grinned and swirled, and Stephen pulled her in for a slow dance whenever the music cooperated. She became acquainted with the hollow of his back and the feeling of his heart thrumming under her cheek. It was all going according to plan, until she heard the voice. Elena was in the bathroom. A group of girls filtered out as she entered, leaving behind a vacuum of silence. She entered a stall, and the girl in the adjacent stall began crying almost as soon as the previous group left. Oh dear, the poor thing was so sad, proclaiming her own self-loathing and cursing a boy who forced himself on her after calling her all sorts of awful things. Elena stood frozen, focused on the despair pounding on the stall divider. She leaned against the cool metal, drawn as if by a strong magnet. She held her breath, inches away from this pathetic, self-loathing girl whose words echoed through the room. Elena gasped, remembering to breathe when she recognized the voice. It was Kat. And the awful guy, Ty, was her boyfriend. As the bathroom door creaked open and someone new entered, Kat's voice continued to choke through her tears. But the new girl in the bathroom simply went about her business and left. A dawning realization washed over Elena. Kat's not talking out loud. I'm the only one hearing this. It's happening again, and I'm the only one who can help her. Elena didn't bother to panic or question her sanity. She was too filled with rage. Rage for whatever Ty did to Kat, rage for the insulting words he used. Rage he used for the words he used to describe her beautiful frenemy. Rage at the stupid, dumbass guy ruining her perfect night. That's it, Elena muttered. Enough is enough. She waited for the new girl to leave the bathroom. Then Elena took a breath, walked out to Kat's stall, and knocked on the door. Kat, I know it's you. Get out here, Elena commanded. Kat cracked the stall door open and whispered, What the hell, Elena? What do you think you're doing? Half crying, half growling, she shoved her black hair back from where it stuck to the tear tracks on her cheeks. Doing? Well, I thought it was about time someone stood up for you, Elena blurted, quickly locking the main bathroom door. None of your so-called friends seem to care that you're here having a breakdown in the bathroom. Because I didn't say anything, Elena, Kat Yell whispered. No one heard anything except you, okay? As far as they're concerned, I'm fine, and I'd like to keep it that way. Bullshit, Elena declared numbly. The secret was spoken, that she could hear Kat's thoughts, and Kat didn't seem particularly surprised by it. Instead of dealing with that bit of unreality, Elena focused on the other bit of bullshit. There's no way they can assume you're fine. You're anything but fine. Don't you get it, Elena? No one knows but you, because what I was saying was all in my head. And in your head somehow, Kat explained, desperately glancing at the locked bathroom door. No one knows about you, and yet this is happening, and it can't be happening because you'll ruin everything. Elena shook her head, trying to loosen the cobwebs of confusion. Her bravado started to slip as Kat wrested control of the situation. Look, you are out of control, Kat said, grabbing her shoulders and pulling her into the stall with her. Do you get it? Do you have any clue what's happening? Elena creased her eyebrows and stared at Kat's mouth. Words were coming out, but she couldn't rearrange them into logical statements. Where did you come from, really? Kat demanded. Elena stared at her blankly. Whatever. You've got to go, now. Elena finally found her voice. No, I might not understand what you're saying, but I understand that whatever happened tonight with your so-called boyfriend is not fine. You can't just go back out there and pretend everything's normal. You need to leave. Oh my God, no, you leave, Kat demanded, shoving Elena out of the stall. Elena wasn't sure how she expected Kat to respond, maybe a thank you or for some grateful weeping, but definitely not an attack. What's going on with you, Kat? One second you're a snob, the next minute you're crying, and now you're mad at me? Elena demanded. I'm not the one who needs help. You need help. Or maybe I really am crazy after all, Elena said, tears filling her eyes. No, Elena said, pointing at Elena. You aren't crazy. And we will take care of all of this ourselves. She narrowed her eyes and examined the specimen that was Elena. Be honest. Are you hearing voices? Elena blanched, and she knew that Kat knew it was true. Jesus Christ, I've got to get you help. Suddenly, Elena felt knocked over by a wave of exhaustion. Her mask of normalcy wasn't just ripped off by this exchange, it was trampled to death. All the previous weeks, frantic, holding it together, caught up to her in one awful, overwhelming wave. She was absolutely, completely done. Theoretically, she wanted to go back to Stephen and the dance, but in her heart and muscles, she knew it was impossible. She needed help, and somehow Kat wanted to help her. All right, Elena said. All right, what? Said Kat, walking over to the bathroom door and checking the lock. You're right. I am hearing voices. No one has a clue what's going on. I need help, but, she said, suddenly rallying and opening her eyes, if I'm going to leave and take care of my situation, then you have to leave too. Kat's eyes narrowed, but she didn't look away. Elena continued, you have to go home, not to whatever party your friends have planned, and definitely not anywhere with the man, Ty. Kat paused, apparently considering Elena's words. Elena worried that Kat would change her mind, so she continued, otherwise, we're both going to the ER, so I can have a psychiatric evaluation and you can have a rape kit done. Kat grimaced. Ty's my boyfriend, Elena. Don't you know that? Well, it doesn't mean he gets to have sex with you whenever he wants, Elena said. Kat laughed wryly. He doesn't get to have sex with me at all, and that's why he acted the way he did. But you said he hurt you, Elena said, remembering what she heard across the stall. Yes, but I don't need a rape kit. I do need a sandwich. So, no ER, but will you go home and not back to that toxic relationship? Elena asked. Fine, Kat said, glancing at the door, but we both got to get out of here. As long as Ty doesn't drive you home, Elena said, as if she had the energy to stop her anyway. Okay, Kat agreed. I'll get a ride home and deal with my toxic relationship, but you need to leave too, and you need to talk to someone. Who? A psychiatrist? No, Kat interrupted, grabbing Elena's bare arm and staring at her intensely. You aren't crazy. I know that you have absolutely no reason to, but you have to trust me. I'm not a big truster, said Elena. I like explanations. How about this? Kat said. I promise that by this time tomorrow, you will have answers. From who? Elena asked, pulling her arm away. You? No, not me. Someone will contact you. I promise, Kat said, pulling out her phone to exchange numbers. But for now, you need to leave and go someplace away from people. Do you share a room? No. Great. You have to get home and just go to bed. Be alone. Do you think you can get a ride home? Kat asked. Yeah, I'll tell Stephen I'm sick, Elena said. That won't be too much of a stretch. You look like hell. Same. The girls glanced at themselves in the cracked bathroom mirror. Kat's hair was a tangle, gone from beachy waves to shoreline debris. Her face was flushed and there was a stain on her pink dress. Elena looked like an accidental goth, unnaturally pale in the black dress with blooming dark circles around her eyes. Her sweaty forehead encouraged errant curls to reform around her hairline. Both girls turned away in distaste. Ready? Kat asked. Elena nodded, walking toward the door. She somehow felt more relieved than she had in weeks. I don't know why I'm trusting you, Kat. You've never said one nice thing to me before. A girl's got to do what a girl's got to do, Kat said, composing her usual look of disdain. You leave first. I'll follow.
Very nice. I was sort of struck by, about how far into the book was that excerpt?
About halfway through.
Yeah, I just thought it was a great frenemy scene, and why we use that word. And I thought it was really telling that your main character, Elena, was like immediately like full of rage at Ty.
Yeah. She's a very principled person. Yes.
Yes.
And I will say, this is probably one of the more interactive readings that we've had. I'm watching you, Angie, as you're doing this, and it's probably appropriate that you're involved in theater because I think we're struggling not to act this out. That was just is very nice to watch.
Oh, I appreciate that. I really struggled when writing this book to learn to capture dialogue. I find dialogue, I found it tricky, but I found that going through that process of writing this book really helped me to grow. And I mentioned that I have two younger daughters. And at times I would just sort of sit in the room like a fly on the wall and listen to the way my daughters and her friends talk to each other. So I really tried to capture the reality of how they talk to each other.
I love that. Real life research happening. So tell our viewers and listeners where they can find your book and where they can find more about you.
Thanks. My website is angelabier.com. That's Angela, B as in boy, I-E-R. And my book is available at all major retailers online. And you can ask your local bookstore to order a copy. That would be the best way.
All right. And we'll throw the link down in the show notes. So I know this book's out now, 6-8 months roughly. Any appearances or book signings on your docket?
I don't have anything coming up right now. I should, but I'm still planning for the summer months. So stay tuned. Check the website for updates. And I also have an Instagram that should be linked in the show profile. So you can find me at Bier Lady on Instagram. The information will be there as well.
All right. Bier Lady takes on a whole new connotation.
There you go. Right. I'm Bier Lady.
Okay. I want to take this time to thank Angie for coming on, introducing everybody out there to voices, and a quick DNA mitochondrial lesson that none of us would have had otherwise. Thanks, everyone out there, for hanging out with us in the Midwest Writers Room. I'm Ken Humphrey.
And I'm Luella Schmidt. Words ignite imaginations and spark change. Never underestimate the power of storytelling.
Midwest Writers Room is a production of the Wisconsin Writers Association. Writing and editing by Luella Schmidt and Ken Humphrey. Sound design and editing by Ken Humphrey. Music for the Midwest Writers Room is written by Michael Ramir C. For more information, please visit wiwrite.org/podcast. Thank you.